Now we're going to move on to Toyota and the story of that runaway Prius, which is now steeped in confusion. Toyota struck back yesterday, revealing findings from its investigation, which they say cast serious doubt on the California driver's story. David Muir is tracking this dramatic new twist.
It's been a week now since we heard this.
My car, I can't slow it down.
And this morning, Toyota is pointing to its own investigation, one that they say shows, quote, significant inconsistencies with the driver's version of what happened. But was it all a hoax? Toyota won't go that far, but the automaker said the car's own diagnostics tell a much different story about what was really going on inside that Prius.
The brake pedal had been applied approximately 250 times during a 20-minute period of time.
ABC News has obtained images of the burned-out brakes from the federal team investigating. We asked independent Prius mechanic Paul Cortez to study them. He said the wear and tear could easily be explained by a driver pushing both pedals.
If you are standing on the brake pedal and standing on the gas at the same time, they're going to get hot and they're going to wear quicker.
But when asked why the car didn't slow down or even stop if the driver was in fact pressing on the brakes, Toyota repeatedly indicated that the driver must have been pressing only lightly.
If he had pushed the brake heavily, the brake override system would cut fuel to the engine and the engine would have shut off.
Toyota said they tried to recreate the scenario, but that they were able to get the car to stop. Federal engineers got the car to stop too. But the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration did add that it's rare to recreate these sudden accelerations. And lastly, what about the driver who said he was standing on the brakes and the California Highway Patrol officer who said he witnessed it? Toyota isn't buying it.
You don't think that he could have stood on the brakes the way he said and caused that kind of wear in the front brakes?
No.
It's a real case of who you believe. This morning, the driver, Jim Sykes, has offered no comment. His attorney had already told ABC News, though, that this was no hoax. His client never intended to sue. And the California Highway Patrol says there is nothing right now to disprove the driver. And remember, they told us that their officer saw the driver going up the hill, brake lights on, at a consistent speed of 90 to 94 miles per hour, suggesting, George, that if it was a fake, it would have been very hard to pull off.
Okay, David Muir, thanks very much. Let's turn now to Joan Clayburgh. She's a former head of NHTSA to try to sort all of this out. And Joan, thanks for joining us again this morning. So you've got the police saying one story, the driver saying another, Toyota and NHTSA saying another. Now, Toyota can't replicate the findings. NHTSA can't replicate them either. Why doesn't that prove that the driver's story isn't true?
Well, because it's very hard to replicate this, and it appears it's an electronic problem, and everyone says it's very difficult to replicate, including the government. I think that the real issue here is not this one particular vehicle and this one particular driver, but rather what Toyota has done. It's manufactured vehicles that are running away. There have been many, many other instances. I don't even know that Toyota's even tried to replicate the problem in other Priuses or their other vehicles. They haven't been able to, as far as we know. And they do have a black box in these vehicles where crashes have occurred, and they haven't made that information available. Toyota is a very secretive company. It only had one downloading system, which it said was not a full-scale one, and it has not produced this information either for the drivers or in court or for the government. And so, you know, I think that the issue here really is, what did Toyota do? Why didn't it recall these cars earlier? Why did it resist the government investigations? Why did it boast it saved $100 million on getting the government to close one of its investigations?
So what should Toyota do right now?
I think Toyota ought to focus on helping its customers, and that's what its president said when it testified before Congress. They said they had lost sight of the real purpose of the company was to listen to its customers and to build the best cars that they can, that they'd focus much too much on making profits. And there are 5 million vehicles that they're recalling for this, you know, slam dunk sudden acceleration, where the accelerator goes flat to the floor and these vehicles take off. They need to fix those cars.
But you know, this problem of unintended acceleration has bedeviled NHTSA for years and years now. Isn't it time for a whole new look, a complete investigation across all manufacturers?
Well, I think that the Department of Transportation needs to issue some standards dealing with electronic issues, because vehicles are now so electronic. And that's what needs to be focused on. Toyota is focused on, you know, a public relations campaign with a multitude of PR companies, and that's what they're doing right now. They need to get back to basics for the American public and really care about them enough to get these cars fixed. And one of the big disputes right now is why Toyota's resisting saying that this is an electronic issue. In these vehicles that have the so-called floor mat problem, there are 5 million of them, they're putting in an electronic brake override for the peace of mind of the customer. But really, I think it's because it's an electronic problem, and they're not acknowledging that for the public. So the public is confused. They don't know what to do. They don't know when to expect this to happen. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has been a lapdog, not a watchdog. It's grossly underfunded. It needs to have twice or more of the amount of money that it has now. We spend more money in Iraq for the guarding of the embassy there to protect 200 people than we spend in the $132 million, which is the total federal budget for the Auto Safety Agency.
Sorry to interrupt you, Joan Claybrook, but we're out of time
okay.
this morning. Thanks very much for joining us again.
Okay, thank you so much.